subsidy, again, can be modeled as a shift out of the supply curve, and we found that the equilibrium price to the consumers fell, the equilibrium price to the producers increased, and the equilibrium quantity increased as well. Let's find the consumer and the producer surplus, and I have to warn you, this graph gets messy very quickly. Consumer surplus is the area underneath the demand curve and above the price, and the relevant price to the consumers is the price that they are paying. It's the $3.50. So the consumer surplus is the area underneath the demand curve and above this price of $3.50. And we can see that consumer surplus has increased. It clearly has increased because consumers are buying more chocolate and they're paying less for every box of chocolate. So of course they're going to be happier. Consumers are clearly better off than they were before. What about producers? Producer surplus is the area underneath the price that the producers are getting, which in this case is $5.50, and above the original supply curve or the original marginal cost curve. So the producer surplus is the area underneath this $5.50 and above the supply curve. And as I warned you, this graph is getting messy because the producer surplus and the consumer surplus overlap. But we can see that the producers are also happy. And they are happy because the price to them went up and the quantity that they are selling increased. So again, let me mark these areas for you. But again, let's just remember that they overlap. The consumer surplus is this whole triangle here. And the producer surplus is this whole triangle here. Excellent. What about total surplus? If consumers are happier and producers are happier, is society as a whole happier? And by now we know the result. No, society cannot be happier because we've moved from where we were before. And where we were before was the efficient outcome. In other words, we've moved down the hill, we've created deadweight loss. We know we've created deadweight loss because at this quantity of 220 units, the marginal cost exceeds the marginal benefit. Remember, the original supply curve is the true marginal cost of production, and the demand curve is the marginal benefit. And so for all the units between 200 and 220, the marginal cost exceeds the marginal benefit. In other words, there is deadweight loss. So we can see the deadweight loss here. It's going to be this triangle. Again, because for all these units, the marginal cost exceeds the marginal benefit. So how do we have deadweight loss when both the consumers and the producers are better off? The answer is, of course, because of the government. Remember, the government is pouring money into the system. This subsidy isn't free. These dollars are dollars that are coming from somewhere else. They are subsidizing chocolates instead of paying for new bridges. They're subsidizing chocolates instead of paying for education. They're subsidizing chocolates by increasing our taxes. We can see this graphically because the subsidy is $2 per unit times the number of units that are exchanged. So this rectangle here, this is the subsidy expenditure. When we calculate total surplus, we have to add everyone that's involved in the market. And in this case, we have consumers, we have producers, and we have the government. But in this case, we add the consumers and producers. But of course, we have to subtract the government because the government is paying money into the system. This is money that's lost because the government is pouring it into this market, the market for chocolate, instead of using it for something else.